my gosh. Hey y'all, hi. How are you all? Today I have so many little things that I want to talk to you about that have been on my mind, and I just wanted to come to you with just an honest conversation about what's been going on in my life. It's more of the emotional landscape of my life. And while I talk about the emotional landscape of my life, I thought I would talk through some unread books that I have on my shelves. If you're new, then know that my name, regardless if you're new or not, is Shelly. It's always been Shelly. And I like to read, and that's mostly what I talk about here. I'm also doing a know by year, and at times I just like to get a bit personal about what's going on in my life. And so if you're enjoying the vibe, I would encourage you to subscribe, stick around, and without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. Because I'm me, I need a slight bit of structure. So we'll talk through some books, and then I'll talk about some personal stuff. and then we'll talk more books, and then I'll talk personal stuff again. However, you must know that I recently cataloged all of my unread books. I scanned them and put them into a spreadsheet. And now all of my unread books are on little slips of paper in this TBjaR. Thank you, Dillon Morris, who left me a silly comment calling it the TBjaR. But this is my unread books, like name jar kind of thing. And I want to do stuff with this, like a read it or unhaul it or something like that. Like bookshelf ultimatum, I've heard people call it that, where you draw a book out of the jar, like a random book, right? And then you either read it or you have to unhaul it. You have to make some sort of decision with it. I like that idea, but right now my plate is ever so slightly full of current reads. And maybe I'll get into that in a minute. I said I was going to talk books first, and instead I'm just launching into the TBR jar. But anyways, the reason is that as I was scanning all of the books to put into a database so I could in a very elegant way export it into some sort of document system, Excel file, like, is that what they're called? Some sort of file, some sort of spreadsheet. That's what it is. The word spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet. That's what I was looking for this whole time. As I was doing that, I was just putting books on, like stacking them out on the ground. And so they had a bit of their former organization on the ground, but as I was putting them back, I just needed the fastest, most non-offensive way for me to put them back on the shelves that were ever so slightly organized. And I chose color because every once in a while, I tend not to, I don't know. I just decided to do it by color. Some people are vocal about how they think that organizing one's books by color is so immature, juvenile, all the things. In this moment, I just decided to do it by color, and I'm just gonna go with it for now. It doesn't bother me. So if it bothers you, sorry, not sorry. So now I have this stack of really random books, which works out well. All of these are unread. I do want to go through some sort of stats of my unread books, the longest book, the most popular book, all that stuff. But I don't have it in me today to do that. So we're just going through the books. So the first book is this ever so tiny little book that I, for whatever reason, still have not read. I don't know. Don't come for me. And I'm going to stop feeling bad about all the unread books. But anyways, my husband gave me this little teeny little book that still has its dust cover on it. It's called Street Cop. And it's by Robert Coover and Art Spiegelman. Now, Art Spiegelman wrote the graphic novels Mouse, which was documenting, it was telling Art Spiegelman is telling his father's story in this graphic novel. His father was a concentration camp survivor. His mother was as well. And in the first book, it is documenting it's telling his father's experience living through World War II as a Jew. And Art Spiegelman does this amazing thing because in part 2, he not only finishes out telling his father's story, Art's father's story, but he also is talking about what it's like it is also about the father-son relationship and the specific relationship that Art had with his father, and diving into that and having a really complicated relationship with somebody who also has survivor's guilt and the impacts of having lived through such a traumatic experience in his life. And so it's about the complexities of that relationship. I'm not going to spend this much time on all of the books. Anyways, I loved Art Spiegelman's Mouse. It is probably one of the books that changed my life in such a wonderful and impactful way. So Ted, my husband, saw this book that was illustrated by Art Spiegelman and wanted to get it for me because he knows how much I love Mouse. One of the reasons why I love Mouse so much is because Ted and I, my husband and I, we were in the first year or two of our relationship, and he and I talked about the book. We both read the graphic novels. I was reading them for a class, but then he was interested in them and he ended up reading them. And we had so many conversations and so many deep and meaningful conversations around the book it's not just for the book itself. It was also the experience accompanying the book that meant so much to me. So this little guy I have, and it's like an echo of the relationship, that it's like a reminder or a token of the experience that Mouse gave me, but this is unread. Next I have Jerome K. Jerome, his book 3 Men in a Boat. This is Mark at Book Time with Elvis. This is his favorite book of all time, and I think if I'm quoting him correctly, it is Mark's mission. I will leave everyone I've named linked down below. It is Mark's mission to get as many people as possible to read his favorite book. I bought this because Mark put it on my radar, but it's hailed, not just from him, but from many people, that this is a funny book. And every once in a while, I need a good, humorous book in my life. So I picked this up late last year, I think. And now it's waiting for me to read it. One of the best experiences I've had here on Booktube is with a very tiny and very wonderful little publisher. They're called Fern Books. They make beautiful little covetable books. And they sent me this book, Like a Sky Inside by Jakuta, I think, Alikavana Zovic. And this is translated by Daniel Levin Becker. I think I entered onto their radar because of a video I did about women in translation, and the Fern Books people who are wonderful. And I think her name is Lauren, who sent this to me. I think so. Anyways, handwritten note, wonderful, amazing, kind interactions, and they sent me this beautiful book that is now published, I think, with a different cover, and I have this copy, and I don't know, I can't remember if I've started it or not. They gave me 2 books, and one of which I started, and the other one I did not, and so I really must get to this, maybe for Women in Translation this year. Every once in a while, I find out about an author and I get this overwhelming feeling that they are for me. And one of those authors for me is Dorothy Dunnett. Now, Dorothy Dunnett wrote 2 historical, she's most known for 2 kind of long, mini books, as in long, historical fiction series. This one is Niccolò Rising. This is set in the 16th century. The other one is The Game of Kings, the Lyman series, which I own the first book in that series, a physical copy of it. And when Dorothy Dunnett was mentioned on Steve Donahue's channel, Steve Donahue is a booktuber here, I just had this, again, overwhelming feeling that Dunnett is for me. Now, I've started the Game of Kings. I've been on a bit of a hiatus with that book, not for circumstances, like just more random than anything else, not for the book's sake, but for more of life's sake. And I have loved her writing. She is so wickedly sharp. Her writing is beautiful. And there is something where there are some writers where you're like, they wield a pen in a different way than other writers do. And she is like that from what I've read from her. Now, this is a little bit of a chunkster, and I wonder if her style changes to me at all. You know, to me, in a way, she is, I want to say, more akin to Hilary Mantel, who wrote Wolf Hall, the Wolf Hall series, which is my favorite series of all time. Dorothy Dunnett is more akin to that, but I think ever so slightly more accessible. Stylistically, she's not quite as intense to me as, from what I've read, as Mantel, but is just as sharp and just as brilliant as Mantel. And then they both write historical fiction. So, want to get to this. When I first started Booktube, I was on an ever so slight James Baldwin kick. I read Giovanni's Room, I read The Fire Next Time, and then that was it. And I think as I was reading those books, I bought Go Tell It on the Mountain, which is about a young man, I think a coming-of-age story, who has a 14-year-old boy who discovered one Saturday on March 1935 of the terms of his identity because he is the stepson of a minister at a church. And I have a religious background, and so I'm always interested in how a writer will write about a very strong and influential religious background. I'm always interested in those kinds of takes. So I bought this and then proceeded to not read it. Since I gushed about Hilary Mantel when I was speaking about Dorothy Dunnett, as I was reading the Wolf Hall series, I bought every book from Hilary Mantel that I stumbled across, and then proceeded to read none of them. So I have the Assassination of Margaret Thatcher, which is stories by Hilary Mantel. And then I think it's one of her first books early in her career. There's Every Day is Mother's Day. Ooh, a book I've had since before Booktube. I've read pieces of it, but I have not read the entire thing. And it is Ariel by Sylvia Plath. I love this poetry book. It is a hardcover with this incredible cover. Probably my top 5 in terms of physical books that are covetable, that are beautiful, that feel so beautiful in the hands, that are just well produced. This book is it, because it is so gorgeous. And every time I see it, my heart double beats ever so slightly because I just find it so beautiful. Let's talk generally about the weirdness of Booktube for me right now. For me, I think it started with a video that I feel like everybody watched. When a video takes off, and one did not exactly expect for that to happen, or at least I didn't expect for my video to take off. The video I'm talking about is Why Everyone Stopped Reading. It was a response video to a video that Jared Henderson did. And it was just my experience teaching English in public school, in private school, some of the factors that have affected my teaching experience. And I really went in on that video trying to share things that I had on my heart to share for a long time, but didn't see an opening of how to share it until I saw Jared Henderson's video. I think to date, my video has 170,000 views and thousands of comments. And believe you me, I still respond to every comment that I get, or at least I try to. And I still do. I mean, every once in a while, a comment or a few comments or a hand, like 10, 15 comments will be sitting sort of in the comments area unresponded to for a couple of weeks. But for the most part, I really do try and get back to, and I have gotten back to all of my comments that I've ever gotten on this channel in some way, shape, or form. And so anyways, I had this video take off. It was kind of intense. A lot of people visited the channel at that time. And for me, I was just incredibly overwhelmed. On the one hand, it's exciting, but on the other hand, it's just the slew of people that I don't recognize when I often recognize many of my commenters. The slew of voices coming onto my channel that I don't know was incredibly overwhelming, and I felt really weird about it. I almost felt, I just felt strange about having a video do quite well, and it was just an odd experience because, again, often I have the kinds of bookish conversations that I want to have. And since my video was about not reading and about my teaching experience, I got just a very different type and tone coming to my channel and viewers coming to my channel that I didn't really expect. And that it was just an odd, overwhelming experience. And then New Year came, the new year. I love doing the wrap up, best of, worst of, all of that, wrapping up the year. And I just adore that. You know, I love watching videos about it. It's so much fun. And then right on the heels of the best and worst of for the year, there is goals videos. People doing their year-long TBjaR, their, you know, what they want to accomplish, all of that. And for me, I felt like I felt stalled. I don't know how else to describe it. On the one hand, I would have this little, it was almost like two different voices. On the one hand, the person in me that loves to participate, that loves the Booktube community with all of my heart, soul, and mind. I love this place in which we talk and are excited about books and reading, that y'all are my people, that this is a space where I can gush so like unrestrained. I'm so free to gush that, and I'm so accepted by that. Whereas in real life, I start to light up intensely when people talk about the books that they're reading. And often my husband has to sort of put his hand on my arm and say, "Settle down, girl." Because it's, you know, not everybody loves reading in the way that I do. And it's all the nitty gritty of reading. Why did you choose that book? What about it do you like? How is it working for you? How long is it taking you to read? I want to know all of that. And it's really interesting that when I'm like that in real life, I think often I can scare away people that there is this energy exuding from my being that is not met with the same enthusiasm from others. So anyways, there was, so, you know, there's that. I love Booktube with my heart, mind, and soul, and I want to participate. So everyone's making goals. I'm like getting back to what I was trying to say. Everyone is making goals videos, what they want to read. They're 24 and 24, 25 and 25. It's 2025. They're, you know, more of this, the number is like, it spins on goals, all this stuff, right? And I wanted to participate, but every single time I would come up with an idea, I would immediately, the other part of me that is maybe more grounded, maybe more cynical, I don't know, there would be like, you know, this other part of me would talk to the excited voice and say, you know, no, you don't want to get stuck doing something. Like, you want to stay free. You want to stay open to however you want your reading, wherever you want your reading to take you. You don't want to just be locked in to this one thing, right? And you want to just be able to be excited about everything rather than just sort of focusing in on one thing that, or sort of have that pressure to mold your reading in a very particular way. And that reasonable voice, it really won out. So I made one video about a classics project that I'm doing. Classics project is going fine. And that kind of satiated the hyper, super excited booktuber, cheerleader that I am. That really satiated that voice, for the time being. So I have a small classics project that I'm working on right now, and I'm excited to continue to work on it. And when it's done, I'll perhaps launch another very small, manageable project. So there's that. And also in the last several months, I stopped making TBR videos because I wanted to give myself more freedom to read what I want to read, participate in the way that I want to participate, and not feel locked down by the verbal contract that I make with myself when I make a TBR video. Even Pile of Possibilities, you can call it whatever you want, but all of a sudden the moment it becomes a living thing that I have said, I do feel that I have made, as I spit, how unflattering, I do feel as if I have an obligation, if not, to myself, to try my best effort in finishing the books. And if I just made the video and then ignored it, I didn't like what that continuous relationship was doing on me personally. It feels like my word doesn't mean anything, and that I'm making these loose plans that I never follow through on. And I don't really like that. I don't like that relationship with myself. And so now we've gotten to now, which let me go through a couple of books, and then we'll talk about what's happening now on Booktube and how I feel about that. So next on my pile is The Chamomile Lawn by Mary Wesley. This is about 5 cousins gathering together in Cornwall on their annual summer holiday. I don't know, there's something about this book that seems like a Shelley book. It says it follows cousins through war and beyond. This was a gift from my sweet friend Anita, which is why I'm looking at the back, because my context is that she gave it to me and she thought I would like it, and that was it. So I don't know much about it, and I know I've talked about it before on my channel when I hauled it, but it's still, sometimes it just takes a minute for things to ring a bell. Anyways, so it's like they're reuniting, and there's war going on, 1939 in Cornwall, and they're united by shared losses and lovers, by family ties and friends. I don't know, this seems like a really interesting book that I would like. Nobody talks about it on Booktube, and I think it would be a good one. I do like the cover as well. Anyways, the next is The Gathering by Anne Enright. Now, I think Ben Reads Good picked this up for his annuary, for his Ben Reads Good reading challenge. And in January, you read a book by Anne, and he calls it Annuary. I don't know what February is. I'm so sorry, Ben. Anyways, and the thing was is that I don't think he was really enjoying this. I think my friend Sandy was trying to read this too. It wasn't super great. It won the Man Booker Prize in 2007, but it's also one of the lowest rated books on Goodreads on my unread TBR. So I don't know. I've read one other Anne Enright book. It's called The Actress. Great book. That was a great book. And that's it. So I saw this thinking, I think it was on the heels of the high that I had from The Actress. And I picked up The Gathering thinking, Enright, she seems like a solid writer. But maybe I was wrong with that assumption. I don't know. I haven't picked it up. Yeah, I don't know. But it has like a 3.34 rating on Goodreads. And it's not like 4 people rated it and that's what the rating is. It's like thousands of people have rated it and that's what the rating is. Then we have I do like nature books, but I somehow don't get to them very often. So I have Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. This is her seminal work on how DDT was affecting the environment. Yes, it was there to kill certain, I think it was to help plants survive, but it killed more than just the pests. So yes, this has been on my TBR for a minute. I think I bought it new. One of the few books I bought new. Speaking of books I bought new, as I was just saying, I don't buy many books new. I bought, oh my gosh, and another one I bought new. Okay, 3 in a row. Okay, this is Mary Oliver. This is Upstream Essays. I have started it. I have some tabs in it. I read a couple of Mary Oliver poetry books that were gorgeous, and it's this beautiful blend of wisdom and nature. I love it so much. And then she came out with essays, and I started them and did not continue. And then, remember I told you I was all about Hilary Mantel? So she came out with Mantel Pieces. It's supposed to be a little pun, kind of like mantle. But Mantel Pieces, and this is just bits of her writing throughout her career. Book reviews, articles that she's written, ponderings, essays on Jane Boleyn, Christopher Marlowe, and other things. So yeah, I've dipped into this, but I haven't committed myself to it fully. A book that a library friend recommended to me, and not to me specifically, it was like, you know what? I worked at the library, and every once in a while you would meet these librarians or these people that worked behind the circulation desks that would have this like recommendation that they recommend to almost everybody. I think Steve Donahue has like his blanketed recommendation for most people is Michael Shiraz's The Killer Angels, I believe. And for my friend, it was this book. It was Ron Rash's Serena. And so it's one of those books where I would see it around at the secondhand store, and I'm like, my friend Michael would recommend that. And so I was like, maybe I'll read it. So, and then actually the next book will transition me into the next topic. Well, so the next book is Mrs. England by Stacey Halls. This is also a book from my friend Anita. This is set in West Yorkshire in 1904. And it's a wealthy couple that the mysterious Mrs. England is an oddity, and she's the mystery that we're seeking to unravel. So, this, actually, Stacey Halls, I was watching Walter Scott Prize Predictions, and I think Stacey Halls has a new book out, and Katie from Books and Things recommended, or like on her prize predictions for the Walter Scott Historical Fiction Prize, she predicted Stacey Halls' new book. So, yes, and that brings us to, we're in prize season. We're at the beginning of prize season. The Women's Prize for Nonfiction just released their long list on March 3rd, not 1st, 3rd, I think I was trying to say. On March 3rd, the Women's Prize for Fiction is going to release their long list. The International Booker on February 25th is going to release their long list. The Booktube Prize is going to come out with, I think they recently came out with their long list. And what else? Oh, the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction is coming out with their long list on February 18th. And this is the kickoff. This is the kickoff to all of the prizes that are being released. And I am feeling in the same way that I was feeling overwhelmed about wanting to participate and then not wanting at all to participate in making goals. I feel that way about prize season. Now, historically, I felt pretty excited about prize season, that I would let it influence me. I would read 1 or 2 books from the prize, the long list. And this year, I think it's because last year, almost all of my worst books came from the prizes, like from the long lists. So many of my worst books were on the long or short lists of these prizes that I've named, and then also from the Booker. So, I cannot, what can I say? So Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan was one of my worst books, and that was on the Women's Prize long list. Chose wrong for, like, if I was going to read one or two books, you would think the one or two books that I would have read would have been pretty good, but instead I chose the worst book for it because it was awful. I didn't like that book. I also know I read The Fraud, not because it was on the Walter Scott Prize long list, but I know that The Fraud by Zadie Smith made it onto the Walter Scott Prize long list, and that was one of my worst books for the year. And I don't know, I have like a confluence of books last year that I read because I was influenced, whether they were new releases or they were on the prize long lists, that made it just awful reading experiences. And so I'm feeling incredibly mixed about prizes this year. I don't want to say I'm feeling cynical because I'm not, but I have this incredibly strong urge to keep a distance from prizes this year and to truly watch as a spectator and not somebody involved in the prize world. I don't know why. It's like I want to read what I own, and I'm excited for those for the prizes, but I don't want to read from them. Even my friend Scott, a Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, was doing a prize predictions video, which I love prize predictions video, and he was talking about Emer McBride's new book, and he mentioned A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing, and I own The Lesser Bohemians. He mentioned The Lesser Bohemians, I think. He mentioned Emer McBride, and that Emer McBride has a new book. And I was like, I own The Lesser Bohemians. That is actually the book I want to read. I don't want to read the new book. So it's almost like I want the excitement of the prizes to be rerouted back to the books I actually own and the books that I want to read, that I've owned, that I've been excited about, that I purchased already. And so my relationship with prizes is that I feel, again, a little like I kind of want to participate. I'm slightly overwhelmed. I don't really know how I feel about it, and I'm feeling all mixed up and tied up about this. And so maybe this year, and it's also because I haven't made any kind of decision and about what I want to do about it. Like, will I let it influence me? Will I not? I don't know. And so now I'm just in this weird funk thinking, will I read something from the Walter Scott Prize long list? I'm not sure. I haven't made a decision. And so I'm in, it's like I'm in this holding pattern with myself and prizes right now. And I don't know what's going to happen. And maybe I'm anticipating and I almost just want to make a decision so that the not knowing, the uncertainty will be over. Because right now I'm in uncertain zone. I'm in an uncertain zone with reading and prizes and all of that. But my feeling is that I really don't want to participate, but then I feel like I'm missing out because the other part of me loving, adoring, thinking Booktube is wonderful and amazing is just like, it's weighing on my heart because I want to participate because it's like prize season. I don't know. What do you all think? All right, let's continue. Speaking of prizes, this was Booker shortlisted. I don't know. It's Days Without End by Sebastian Barry. I heard it's an amazing historical fiction book, and I want to read it. It was also endorsed by Steve Donahue. Oh, a book that everybody says that I will read, and so many people are just like, just read it, girl. You'll like it. Just read it. And it is Call Me By Your Name by Andre Osman. A love story between I think an older, like not older man, but like a youthful young man, and then a man that is less youthful. And it's set in summertime. I've read the beginning of this, and it's very Proustian. Even Osman admits to being influenced by Proust, and we have that. There we have that. We also have All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This is a Pulitzer Prize winner historical fiction book. I bought this actually again last year, and I got it because I just have heard so many good things about it. And Anthony Doerr was his book Cloud Cuckoo Land Alice from Alice in the Giant Bookshelf read, and Alice passed last year, and she was on my mind when I came across this, and I wanted to get it partly in honor of her, even though I still do want to read Cloud Cuckoo Land as well. But I was like, oh, she loved Dora, and she talked about him in her last year on Booktube. She talked about him a lot, and I was like, I want that little piece of Alice with me. So I see this, and I want to read it. And then another long historical fiction series that I want to start, and it is Patrick O'Brian's Master and Commander. I did watch the movie, but I remember it was kind of boring, and that what the main actor in it learned violin for the part. I was like, what in the world? Dedication. I need to have that same dedication towards reading this book. And then, I also have, The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. This was a recommendation from my friend Anita, who said this was a great book. This was actually, I was looking at all the books that I'd read from the Walter Scott Prize for fiction, historical fiction, that thing. And I was looking at what books I owned that had made it on the prize long list. It's less than I thought. I've read less from that list than a lot of prizes, but this was actually on there. This was shortlisted at some point. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll get along with it. Maybe not. Don't really know, but I've heard it's a fantastic book. That's all I really know, okay? I have a handful of books left. I'm going to start with perhaps the darkest news moment, darkest feelings. Then I will end it more on a positive or an uplifting note. So I know that, and I have been paying attention to the darkness that has been encroaching or that has really taken over the fantasy community, that stuff has come out in the last week, and really the last couple of days, that has deeply, deeply affected the fantasy community. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel adjacent to that community. We're all readers. We're all doing Booktube. Although I have my people that I hang out with that are just a different corner of Booktube. However, I do know that the dark is the dark sadness that is clouding the bookish community, especially in the fantasy corner. I find it so disheartening and discouraging and sad, like just on a human level, like incredibly sad. Yeah, and just feeling like it's a part of the larger community that I'm participating in, and just watching people, like watching people be rocked by it, being rocked by the news, people being, saddened and surprised and angry. Just a lot of emotions are coming out right now. And it's a lot. It's a lot to sort of witness, even if it's from afar. And, it can make me incredibly sad that so many people have been deeply rocked by events that have happened, but also the news that has come out recently from that particular corner. I guess, yeah, that's really all I wanted to say, I guess. Just that the darkness, even though it's not our little corner of Booktube necessarily, it feels like the through line, like the darkness has seeped in and it's affecting everybody. So, all right. So the Half-Drowned King is my next book. It's hard to move on from talking about darkness to The Half-Drowned King by Linnea Hartsucker. This is set in Ireland in Norway, something. It's supposed to be good, okay? It's a trilogy. It's supposed to be good. Then we also have, a book that every time I pick it up and I read a little bit of it, it excites me. And it is A Naturalist Buys an Old Farm by Edwin Wace Teale, who is known for his nature writing. So, want to read this, definitely. On the nonfiction train, I had another small publisher, Who is this publisher? Oh, I still have even the pub note in it. Who was the publisher? The publisher is Girl Friday Books, and this is Finding Elevation by Lisa Thompson. It's supposed to be for fans of Cheryl Strayed's Wild. I love Cheryl Strayed's Wild. And instead of a hike, instead of this is a climb, a mountain climb. This is a mountain climb rather than a long trail hike, I think. I don't know. Anyways, they sent it to me and it was so wonderful, and I've been meaning to read it. It's not even that long, and I just need to get to it. All right, and then we also have Holding Her Breath by Emer Ryan. This it's an Irish book. Anyways, my friend got it for me because he knew that I love Steve Donahue. And as a gift, he had given me Steve Donahue recommended books, and this was on the best of list for debut. So there was this. Another book that I bought full price, which was Antonia Ingris's Sirens and Muses, which was Olive at a Book Olive, her favorite book for, I think, 2023, and then I bought it and then didn't read it. I've even recreated the cover of this book and still haven't read it. Speaking of weird things on Booktube, Olive says she was going to take a break, and that really got to me too. She's not leaving Booktube, but she's changing her relationship with Booktube, and that really weirded me out a little bit. Not weirded, I was like, okay, I get it, but then I was like, why are you leaving? Also, Steve Donahue took an incredibly long break from Booktube this year. That really got to me. I don't like that. I don't like that. So, but now he's back, and I have been catching every video that I can from him, and it's been wonderful. I'm just so glad to have him back. We also have Lincoln and the Bardo by George Saunders, winner of the Booker Prize. Been meaning to read it. Seems very polarizing. People who love it, like really, really love it. And people who don't like it, don't like it very much at all. They were like, DNF'd it. And then we have a book of essays from Susan Sontag. I read Regarding the Pain of Others by Sontag, which is an amazing nonfiction book about the history of war photography and the way that we consume it. And Where the Stress Falls is a book of her essays. For whatever reason, I thought it was not a book of essays. I just realized it was a book of essays, or maybe just reminded myself it was a book of essays. But that means I could dip in and out of it. So maybe I should do that instead of just sitting down and trying to read the whole thing all at one time. I'll have to think about that. The last thing I will tell you about is this. I'm out of books, so I'll try and keep this brief. But I got invited to I was invited to something called Creators and Friends, which is a creator retreat. A creator retreat. It is like a brand trip, but not necessarily for one brand. For many brands sponsor different parts of the trip. Mostly it's this. Creators, Instagrammers, YouTubers get invited to go and spend several days away from their home and interact with other creators. And it's about building community and getting to know one another in this incredibly odd and wonderful thing that one does on the internet. I have known about this since its beginning because I am a fan of the creators of this event. One of them is an Instagrammer named Simbri. Her handle is Simbri Thanks. And the other one is a YouTuber, a makeup YouTuber, mostly makeup lifestyle books, named Samantha March. And they came together and said, we want creators, people who are making content, to be able to meet each other and have community and fellowship with one another. And in that, what was born was an event called Creator and Friends. And they've done a handful of events. I think they've done it this will be the 4th year that they're doing it. And they it's invitation, not invitational. Well, yeah, it is invitation only, that they invite creators to come to a retreat where they can do just that, hang out, learn more about one another, build community, and be with one another. And then while they were putting this trip together, they decided to ask brands to sponsor different parts of the trip. And those brands are, some makeup brands, other just small brands, big brands. And they sponsor different classes, different workshops, different dinners, maybe a pool party, all that kind of stuff. Maybe drinks, maybe snacks for the trip, maybe the housing. So brands will sponsor different parts, and then it makes it a little bit easier on the creators. And the creators are not required to post anything. Posting about the trip or the brands is not required. So all of it is incredibly wholesome. All of it is really about meeting one another in this hobby that we all do, or this work that we all do, and it's about being with one another. And so, having said all of that, I knew about it, and I've known, and I watch a lot of the creators that go on these trips, and Simbri had reached out to me and asked if I would like to go. And I was so incredibly thrilled. So right now I'm planning on going, and then all of my feelings came bubbling to the surface. All of those awful feelings of self-doubt and ickiness of like, I'm not good enough, and I'm not cool enough. A lot of these women that are going to be there. A lot of these event creators, they're not all women. A lot of these creators who are going to be there are beauty people. And a lot of them are beauty people, but they're expanding. And so I don't know. I just had I cried about it this morning, thinking, what if I'm not cool enough or amazing enough to be able to like articulate myself or be with these amazingly cool people, but also just feeling like I don't know, all the things that like excited, even though it's not until after summer. This is way in the future. But I just didn't know who to share it with, so I wanted to share it with you all, that I'm going to be going on this trip, that I have this opportunity to go on, and I am feeling blessed and grateful and slightly overwhelmed and slightly insecure about all of it. But I will also be able to meet people who I have long admired. And because one of the community I had fallen in love with first was the beauty community. And I knew about Booktube, but as I had mentioned before, Fantasy Booktube was the origins of Booktube. And I was not a fantasy reader, and so I have always checked back in with the Booktube community, and it seemed like when the Booktube community was at the speed of which I wanted to join, then that's when I joined it. But the beauty community is the one that I have continuously watched and loved. And so to be invited to go on a trip with people that I've long admired, it makes me feel grateful and overwhelmed and a little weird, a little self-doubty. So yeah, but yeah, that's happening. I'm excited and thrilled and all the things. So I don't know. It's very weird also just to talk to people in person. And not only do I have to explain that I talk about books on the internet, which is incredibly niche, often it's like an incredibly niche thing. But then to also explain that I got invited to go on a trip to meet other people who do something very similar, like the concept is similar, but it's also different, and why it's such an honor. It's a lot. A lot of people don't even know. Not that I keep it a secret. A lot of people do know, but a lot of people also don't know that I make Booktube videos in my real life. So connecting with people about this particular excitement is just, it seems like a lot. So I thought I would tell you all, and that you all can, I don't know, share in my joy. Yeah. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. You have no idea how much I appreciate you. And I will see you all, every single one of you, I hope, in my next one. Bye.